welcome to episode 7 of the Music Crypt. And along for a ride, as usual, is my partner in crime, Dan Montgomery. How you doing today, Dan?
Hey, what's up, Jason?
It's been about a month since we last did this, and I missed that great radio voice we all know and love. Today, Dan, we're going to be talking the first half of the show about, for our music topic, Alice Cooper. And part 2 is going to be the history of a Hulk. Now, I was talking to you over the email in prepping for a show, and you were sharing me you're pretty much just about as big of an Alice Cooper fan as I am. So we're going to be talking all kinds of things because 2021 is an interesting year for Alice Cooper, and the fact that like me, you just recently purchased the new album Detroit Story. So we're going to be talking about that, but it's also the 50th anniversary of the third Alice Cooper album, which is Love It to Death. So let's get right into it. What was the album that did it for you, that really kind of introduced you to Alice Cooper?
Probably Killers.
Interesting. I think that's also celebrating 50 years. I think that also came out.
I think that was the first Alice Cooper album I got, and then strangely after that, I think it was Muscle of Love.
Wow.
Somehow, I don't know how I got a hold of that one, because that's kind of like one of his off records that nobody really talks about, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of one of those rare albums that it's hard to find. It's still out there.
It was a really good album, and then I just started getting into pretty much anything I could get a hold of.
Yeah, you know, Alice, especially that Killers album, I love because, I mean, first of all, just the snake on the cover, that was kind of controversial at the time. I mean, people see that and they kind of freak out. It's a snake, but if you've ever seen Alice Cooper, like in concert and video, like he's got these big boa constrictors that he puts around his neck, and it's pretty cool. So that's an Alice thing. And then speaking of Killers, the one song I really always kind of gravitate towards from that album is Be My Lover. That's like the first Alice Cooper song I ever heard, and if you listen to the lyrics, it's interesting because the guitar player Michael Bruce, he wrote that, but it kind of tells a story of Alice where there's a lyric in there that says that's why the singer's name is Alice, and it's kind of an interesting tale.
Yeah, it's definitely his music is just unique.
Yeah.
You know? And even though every song is completely different.
Oh yeah.
I was finding this out, as I was thinking about it today. Even though all of his music is so unique, once you get like a verse into it, you can sing along with it.
Oh yeah, that's the thing that makes
you already know the words before he sings them.
Yeah, that makes Alice so unique.
Just so cool.
Yeah, that's what makes Alice Cooper so unique, and I love Alice also for the visuals, the theatrics. If you've ever seen him live, I mean, it's like nothing you've ever seen. I mean, people got to realize Alice Cooper predates Kiss, and the story I heard the Kiss guys tell was they all went to see Alice Cooper in concert, and they kind of got the idea. Okay. We love the theatrics there, but instead of just one guy in the band getting made up, we're gonna all four of the guys in our band's gonna get made up, and we're gonna take it to the extreme, though, which they did a great job of. But what I love about Alice Cooper is the makeup is so simple. I mean, he even had an album a few years ago called The Eyes of Alice Cooper, and like if you just look at the way his eyes are made up, that's the first thing you kind of visualize. And he really is the only one in the band made up, and that's why Alice kind of became the central figure, but I love it. He's not really glammed out like Kiss, but yet it works for him, and everybody knows when you see those eyes, that's Alice Cooper.
Right.
And
definitely.
And it's
like I got to see him back when he a couple of times. Like I saw Constrictor, and then I saw Raise Your Fist and Yell, and that was kind of like when he was getting into like the horror type stuff, So just a creep. It was just an awesome. It was just. You can't even describe the stage show. You had to be there. It was just an experience. Constrictor
was an interesting time because that was kind of Alice Cooper's comeback, and it wasn't a huge comeback, but at that time, that's the first thing Alice Cooper done in like 3 years. A lot of people at that time had kind of forgotten about Alice. He comes back with this killer live band, and that's where a lot of people for the first time saw like Kip Winger.
Exactly.
Kip Winger never played with Alice Cooper. I mean, he may not have had the success he's had. And then you had this guy that was all buffed up, Kane Roberts, just amazing guitar player. And so, Alice, that's the other thing. He's always, he's not ashamed to share the stage. He's got great guys that have played with him over the years. And, let's get into the Love It to Death. That's the third album from Alice Cooper Band, and it was released, just so people have a time frame we're talking about, going back 50 years, like I said, March 9th, 1971. Now, what's interesting, Dan, to just give you some kind of again, about the time frame. I was just born like July 4th, 1971, so I'm kind of coming into the world, and I along the way discover this album, everything Alice Cooper has done since, and just loved it, like you said. I mean, I'm holding my hand. I got an Alice Cooper kind of a greatest hits collection. Now, if you're a fan of Alice Cooper, probably the original greatest hits thing he put out called Alice Cooper's Greatest Hits from like in the 70s. I would point people, like, if you want to know what Alice Cooper's all about, that's a great starting point, because it's got a lot of the hits. The only problem with it now is he's got so many other hits like from the 80s and the 90s that they need kind of an updated version. And I've got another collection here. It's called Mascara and Monsters. Again, it's kind of a best of collection, and I got this on Amazon. And again, it's a good kind of overview of what Alice Cooper's about. But just going down the track list in here, and you tell me when you hear this if this isn't kind of a soundtrack to many of our lives. I'm 18. Is It My Body? Desperado. Under My Wheels. Be My Lover. School's Out. Elected. Hello, Hooray. No More Mr. Nice Guy. $1 Billion Babies. Teenage Lamont. Muscle of Love, as you mentioned. Only Women Bleed. Department of Youth. Welcome to My Nightmare. I Never Cry. You and Me. How You Gonna See Me Now? From the Inside. Poison. And that's a huge list, and yet I bet you like me have heard all these songs I just mentioned at least half a dozen times throughout your life. And that's the kind of influence Alice Cooper's had on not just music but pop culture in general. I mean, Alice Cooper, I mean, if you look at his fan base, it is quite huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Love It to Death. Interesting thing about this album turning 50 years old. This kind of predates. These days, Alice is known like as the shock rock king and that, and Detroit rock and stuff. But some of the hits on this, like "Caught in a Dream," "I'm 18," and what's interesting is, like, I remember talking about Bob Ezrin. He's kind of he's really responsible for that great Alice Cooper song on many of these great albums we're talking about that Alice did. And I heard him doing an interview where he said the first time he heard the song I'm 18, he says it sounded really raw and primal. He's like, I thought the lyric was I'm edgy, and then Alice is like, no, it's I'm 18. But interesting.
I think you told him to dumb it down.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, you probably heard the same interview I did. But what's interesting is I was reading on the Wikipedia for this album, and it said this album, really, if you listen to it, it like predates a lot of the shock rock stuff Alice did. It has a real kind of a punk influence to a lot of these songs on here. And because like many times when a band's just starting out and on their early albums, they're really kind of still hungry. They're just kind of discovering their sound. You can hear this throughout this album, and that's the great thing. I was reading like the Ramones were influenced by Alice Cooper because of many of these songs, and that's kind of interesting that when you're a guy that's had a 50-year career like Alice, you're going to influence all kinds of people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you want to check out some really punky, edgy Alice,
Yeah.
Go back to like '69 and check out like "Pretty's for You" or 1970
and
Easy Action.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that because
they're just like way different from what he did.
Yeah,
like in Love It to Death.
And that's really interesting you say that because I was doing that, like going on YouTube and checking out some of the earlier stuff you mentioned, and it sounds nothing like Alice Cooper, and that's why I think Alice Cooper and Bob Ezrin have really a great partnership because I don't think Ezrin was involved in those earlier albums, and you can hear like even on this Love It to Death, which is a third album after I think Pretty's for You, it sounds almost like a completely different band. It's the same guys in the band, but they were really, you can hear, kind of struggling to develop their sound on those first two albums.
Absolutely.
And you and me were also talking. The thing about Alice Cooper is after 50 years of doing this, being in the rock business, he could do like a lot of these guys and kind of hang up his rock and roll shoes and say, okay, I'm just going to live on my catalog of music. It's a pretty good catalog of music, but what I dig is he continues to pump out new music, and
right.
And
like sounds just as good as it did in 1971.
And I dare say this new album that you and I were talking about, Detroit Stories, also produced by Bob Ezrin, And once again, you look at the cover. It's kind of it's like a Detroit kind of skyline. It's got kind of Alice's eyes like front and center. You just can't miss those eyes. And it's a great sounding album. The fact that a lot of people say, oh well, he should just stick to his doing the classic stuff. But no, this is just as good of the classic stuff, if not better. I mean, it holds up to anything he's done before, which I don't know if it's because of all this COVID stuff and they had a lot more time to but this is just a really focused album. And the thing is, he's like, I want to go back to kind of that Detroit sound. And he's got a lot of the guys that play on the album, I guess that was the point too, had guys that are originally from Detroit. Like he's got this guitar player that is involved with a lot of the songwriting, Wayne Cramer from MC5. Probably anybody aware of who they were back in the day. Probably their big hit was Kick Out the Jam. And
exactly.
and so he's and then he's got guys that played in the original band like Michael Bruce we were talking about, the drummer Neil Smith. And there's a cool track on here called I Hate You, where all the guys from the original band, they kind of do, it's kind of like a talking track, and each guy kind of does a line, they go back and forth. It's cool. It's just like nothing I've ever. And I also love, I was telling you, first track on the new album, Rock and Roll. That's if you look at the songwriting credit, it was written by Lou Reed from a Velvet Underground. So it was originally a Velvet Underground tune, and I went and checked out the original version. I will tell you,
it rocks. It really rocks.
This really rocks. I mean, nothing against the Velvet Underground, but it really sounded completely like a different song, not just because it's a different singer or anything, but Alice really rocked it up.
He made it his, that's for sure.
Yeah, and Go Man Go, Our Love Will Change the World. That was kind of the first single they released off of this, and it's kind of aimed like at commercial pop radio maybe, but it's a cool little tune. It kind of fits what Alice does, and that's one of the songs I love. $1,000 High Heel Shoes. So I've done a little bit of talking here. So I want to ask you, Dan, when you first got this album, and you put it on, you listened to it for the first time. I mean, did you hear like from top to bottom, or did you listen a couple tracks at a time? What was the process for you?
I sat down and I was actually putting together a show for the radio show, right?
Okay.
And so I'm just kind of trying to figure out what I want to play, and I can't play mainstream stuff on the channel I'm on, right?
Wow, yeah.
But I've got this playing. I got the album playing, and I'm just dragging and dropping songs and trying to figure out what order and how I want to mix them together and crap like that. And I just had to stop doing what I was doing to listen to the album.
And see,
it took my attention. It was very good. I mean, I dig the cover, Rock and Roll. Go Man Go is an awesome tune.
Yeah.
Hail Mary, I love that one. Detroit.
Yeah.
Detroit City, that's a cool one.
Detroit City, that's interesting, and obviously you got the.
And it's Dave. I like that one.
Oh yeah. You got the Bob Ezrin connection, but I was thinking, they have a song called Detroit City, and it's kind of interesting because you got the Kiss connection with Ezrin and Detroit Rock City, obviously, but so he couldn't call it that, but it's cool. And then I love East Side Story. That's actually also I found out a Bob Seger tune.
Oh yeah, and that's I guess they had somebody from the Bob Seger band play on that album too.
Wow. Sister Ann, that's another great one. Hanging by a Thread. I love just some of the titles. I mean, he's a great writer, and he's always got guys in his band that are great writers. Like there's one of the guys that writes on one of the tunes, Chuck Garrick. He's in the live band for the last several years, and he's got a pretty cool band called Bisto Blanco, and then of course he's got that shredder guitar player Nita Strauss. I love her being a female, hot looking female guitar player, but I tell you, she can shred with the best of them.
For sure.
Yeah, and see that's what I love about Alice, and it's kind of cool. Like you said, you were listening to it and prepping for your show, Dan, and you're saying we can't typically play too much mainstream stuff on there, but I think you could get away with it there because even if you were to just feature, let's say, a track like Rock and Roll, that's something that sounds like classic Alice, and you could maybe get it.
And it's a cover tune.
Yeah, and you can maybe get away with saying,
maybe I could get away with that.
Hey, this is a classic Alice tune, It sounds like something that could have gone on, like School's Out or $1 Billion Babies. It's just, and that's the cool thing about Alice is he's not afraid to try anything. Kind of go out on a limb. Probably the most kind of reaction I had to an Alice Cooper album before, I guess shocking, is when the album Brutal Planet came out. Because Alice, I guess we could consider him hard rock. He's got elements of metal, obviously classic rock, but like Brutal Planet, that track, and the album as a whole is really full blown on metal. Kind of Alice to the extreme, but it is also, interestingly enough, an album that a lot of Alice Cooper fans have grown to love, and it's just kind of interesting. But I'll give you trivia, see if you know this one. Do you know what Frank Sinatra tune Alice covered?
I don't right off. No.
Okay, You and Me. Now again, I didn't know this until a few years ago, but you hear that and you think that's an Alice tune, but again, if you read the credits, it was actually originally Frank Sinatra that did that. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's. But see, Alice, I was reading that he put out a box set a number of years ago, and he's been, in 50 years of rock, he came to know some rock legends. He was friends with guys like everybody from Elvis Presley to Jim Morrison and Hendrix, and I think he's even he's recorded stuff with the Bee Gees and stuff. So that's a cool thing.
I think he did a tour with freaking Rob Zombie.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So yeah.
And it's interesting. Alice Cooper, again, around this predates even Constrictor. The first thing people really saw Alice Cooper do around 1985, when he was kind of gone for a few years, was he appeared on Twisted Sister's Come Out and Play album on the track Be Cruel to Your School. Now, anybody that's an Alice Cooper or Twisted Sister fan, it's a cool tune. Alice appears in the video with the guys, and from what I understand, Dee Snider was really, he grew up idolizing Alice Cooper. So could you imagine how cool for Dee Snider to do that song with him?
Yeah, no doubt.
And
cool.
Yeah, and what's kind of, I dig the fact that Alice Cooper is one of those guys that he always stays true to who he is. He never tries to change with the times, if you know what I mean. He never gets all political, which I'm a little disappointed to say, in Dee Snider. Dee Snider, to me, he used to be everybody, he used to be the real defender of the faith, if you will, like Rob Halford. He used to, I remember 25 years ago when he showed up at those Senate hearings, he was, and he's looking like the crazy guy, but he was sticking up for everybody's right to do whatever. And it's funny, he was, Dee Snider, all these years later, he wants to be among the so-called elites, the very people that were trying to censor his records back then, even so much to he was saying something about how he was disappointed about Alice Cooper recently, about a comment Alice made against one of some politician, or not. Alice said he'd rather just stay out of it or whatever, and he's like, well, Alice has a responsibility to say what he thinks and this and that, and I'm like, okay, Dee, I thought this guy was your hero. Just enjoy his music, if you want to speak out, that's cool, but don't make other people that don't want to feel like they need to, and it's kind of a shame, like I said, that I even have to kind of feel that way towards Dee Snider. But sometimes okay, Dee, you have a right to your opinion too, but let's talk music, which hopefully he's supposed to be having a new solo album coming out, I think in July, so I'm looking forward to that, because his last solo album I thought was kind of really the best thing he's done in years.
Nice.
Yeah, but
I don't think I actually listened to that. I'll have to check it out.
It doesn't really sound like Twisted Sister, but it's really the first solo album he's put out that's really, really solid. It's kind of really metal, but it's called For the Love of Metal. But it's worth checking out. So, and I just gotta tell people, as far as seeing Alice Cooper live, the last time I seen him, was on this tour they did with Queensryche. When Jeff Tate was still in the band, might even been the last tour he did, and then Black Sabbath with Ronnie Dio, which was they were having to call it Heaven and Hell at the time, but what a cool show. that was quite a diverse show as far as the different bands you got to see. I loved Sabbath with Ronnie Dio. I loved Queensryche, but I'll tell you, Alice Cooper really stole the show. I mean, because of his theatrics. One thing that really stood out to me, like he kind of is. Not only is he a great songwriter and got great songs, but when you see Alice live, he brings these songs to life. Each one kind of like live. He's telling a story. I remember when they were performing Poison, Alice comes out on a stage holding this huge, supersized like needle, and he sticks this in like this doll's arm, just this crazy looking baby doll, but it was cool. It's like nothing you'd ever seen. You have to really see it to believe it. And
it was definitely like a horror show
come to life.
A horror movie right on stage. It's definitely cool.
And
I got to see him twice in concert and once in a grocery store.
Wow. and now, like when you see him in the grocery store, like was this in Arizona where he lives, or?
Yeah. I was down in Phoenix, and so he was just in line like buying eggs.
And was it?
And so there's like a People magazine or something. It said, it was like it was like 1983, 84 maybe, or early 84.
Yeah.
And there's a picture, a magazine with him on the cover, and.
Wow, how cool is that?
And I'm looking at that, and I'm looking at him, and I'm looking at that, and I'm looking at him, and he just kind of looks at me, and my roommate's looking at him, and looking at that, and he goes, we're kind of looking at you, Alice Cooper.
Yeah, he must,
And he goes, not right now.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny you say that because if you've ever heard like Alice talk or give an interview, he always refers to himself like in the third person, and he's like, the minute I hit the stage, I turn into Alice. That's who I am for the next 2.5 hours. The minute I step off stage, I'm Vince. Vince Fernier. That's his real name. But he lives it like that. And I guess part of the reason is not that he ever went crazy, but he had a really he battled an addiction to alcohol for several years. So much that it even he almost died quite a few times. I mean, he got to the point where they, on the album From the Inside, those were songs I guess he wrote while he was trying to dry out. Back in the day, they didn't have like rehab places where, like they have now, so they would stick you with kind of, what's commonly referred to as a nut house, with people that weren't even there, the same hospital for like he was trying to dry out from alcohol. They'd stick you with the crazy people back in the day, and he kind of on the album From the Inside wrote songs of what it was like to be in a hospital like that,
Yeah.
And you got to dig that this guy writes from life experiences, and the song, I don't know if you've ever heard the song Have You Ever Seen Me Now, but that is written, I've heard Alice talk about, that was written from perspective from a day he met his wife. She really never knew him outside of being an alcoholic, and he had the fear, hey, how is she going to see me sober and everything for the first time? She's never seen me like this. What's that going to be like? And that's kind of cool. But I just got to tell people before we wrap up the Alice Cooper portion. I could go on about Alice. I'm just such a huge fan. But what's cool about the new album too, it's as good as any of the classic stuff. We've said that. And you get like they don't just have 8 or 9 new tracks on here. We get like 15 new tracks. That's pretty cool. And then also as an added bonus, there's a DVD that comes with the new CD. It's from, I guess, the last tour. It's called A Paranormal Evening. It's kind of like a cool live show. It's got a lot of the classics and some of the newer hits like Brutal Planets on there. We were talking about that. And so again, you get 50 new tracks. You get kind of a free DVD to go along with it. After you listen to CD, you can put the DVD in your player and watch it. It's pretty cool. And I also dig the fact that the album in the U.S. hit number 1 like the first week is out. How many hard rock acts these days can say that, Dan? It's so in the U.S. these days, they have a number 1 album. You're speaking to your fans. The fans have responded.
Yeah, for sure.
So unless do you have anything else you'd like to say about Alice before we wrap that portion of the show up?
No, it's just this new album is just it just kicks ass.
Yeah.
If you like the old Alice Cooper, you'll like this one.
Yeah, and I dare say that when all this COVID stuff, things are starting to finally open, like here in California where I'm from. I don't know about where you're from, Dan, but hopefully once bands are able to get out there and start really touring like they used to be able to, I think the only problem Alice Cooper is going to have with the live show is decide how much of his new album do you put in the show versus the classic stuff,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the only other problem with before the COVID stuff happened, right?
Yeah.
They do like he would do these tours, come around and hit like these bigger like casinos and smaller venues, right?
Yeah.
And I was going to try to get tickets to go see him.
Wow.
And if you wanted to be close enough to see the stage, the venue was charging $350 a seat.
Yeah, but Alice Cooper is one of those bands that people will go see because people pay $300 because when you go to an Alice Cooper show, it's worth it. You do not leave disappointed.
It just brings me back to going, well, I remember all of the records, all of the CDs, all the concerts, all the merchandise. I had spent $300.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because
the greed is making it to the point where I've got to charge as much possible.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of interesting that you bring that up because I remember, when I was a teenager, I think the most I paid for a concert ticket back then was like $15, $16, and see, then you got a band like Guns N' Roses. They don't have anywhere near the catalog of music Alice Cooper has, but people, they only play those big stadiums, so people will also, I guess, pay to go see a Guns N' Roses show. But I'm kind of like with that, well, I don't know that I'm really Guns N' Roses are good, but I don't know I want to go pay $300 for that,
Yeah, exactly.
So that's wrapping up our Alice Cooper portion. Now, as I said, for kind of the other half of the show, we're talking about the Incredible Hulk today. Now, we'll just start with you. Why don't we, Dan, today on that? Tell us how you first became a Hulk fan.
Well, I think it was just by mistake.
Yeah.
Maybe I saw him in another comic book, or I just saw it on the comic book stand and I grabbed it by curiosity or something like that. But I wasn't ever really like
the ultimate Hulk fan.
I didn't like grab every issue and follow the storylines, but I knew the Hulk was green.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that because when I was growing up, I think my introduction to the Hulk was actually that classic TV show starring Bill Bixby. That was my Hulk at the time, if you know what I mean.
Right, exactly.
That's kind of my reference point for the Hulk, where it all started. And I think what made the TV show, I think it was like 5 or 6 seasons, but I think what made the TV show so cool was, before that we'd had Superman and Batman and even Wonder Woman on TV, but the Hulk was different because, and even doing research for this today, thing I ultimately was thinking, okay, the Hulk is kind of a different kind of superhero. I think you'd have much easier time convincing people that the Hulk is a monster because this is something I came across and I wrote down. Okay, first of all, the Hulk was created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. It's, of course, from Marvel Comics. First appearance was in The Incredible Hulk #1, May 1962. So that right there tells you, okay, the Hulk is coming out of like the hippie generation, of peace, love, and flower power. Now, the interesting thing about this is, okay, the Hulk and Bruce Banner or David Banner rather, two very different personalities. It's almost like this guy's walking around with two different distinct personalities, and both are able to exist independently, and yet they resent the existence of the other. Okay, so just kind of think about it. You're walking around all day. You have this ability to turn into this horrible monster. It just has anger issues, and stuff. And yet we're supposed to believe the Hulk uses it for the purposes of good. Okay, and that's part of the thing. Is like, if you know anything about the Hulk, he's in this he goes through this has this accident gamma ray thing, and it kind of turns him into the Hulk. And so that's kind of issue the Hulk has, controlling his anger and kind of getting because I remember watching the TV show, and that was the thing, is turns into this big green monster, and and he's trying to, just like Batman, he's trying to do away with the bad guys and the evil. But the cool thing about it was how he'd go about it. He'd get all violent. You'd see, like, even on TV, you'd see the Hulk like pick up a car and throw it across the screen, and it looks so real. But see that, and I always have the question, like you were saying, the Incredible Hulk. They've made several movies, but it's never even like Batman or Spider-Man. It's never had the kind of success as those other films. I don't know if it's because this is such a different kind of superhero. I don't know if it's because they haven't found the right guy to play the part. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a combination of the stories they pick,
yeah,
the actors they have acting,
yeah,
and the directors they have directing.
Yeah.
I think the Hulk would be. They tried him a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it didn't really pan out, because I think they had the wrong director.
Yeah. See. Yeah.
But we're going back to Hulk and how he gets angry.
Yeah.
The very first time he appeared, right?
Yeah.
He saved this guy, Rick Jones, from a gamma bomb.
But he can't save himself. Yeah.
Right? And he gets pushed into a ditch, and then Rick Jones takes Banner into the place, and he doesn't have any side effects.
Yeah.
But at nighttime, he turned into the Hulk.
Wow.
It was like a werewolf thing. It wasn't like he get angry. So I guess, and then he was colored gray.
Yeah.
But I guess every page, every frame, they had problem getting the gray being the same.
Yeah. Wow.
So in issue 2, he was green.
Yeah. See, I've always known the Hulk is green, but yeah, again in my research, it was saying that how he's been more than just green. And here's another thing. That's part of a confusion. Okay. I remember back when watching the TV show when I was a kid, and they had a little introduction as Dr. David Banner, and so it's interesting in the TV series. It's David Banner. Everything like in the comics and everything else, it was Bruce Banner. But then what I was reading up on, and this is kind of interesting. Back in the day, it didn't used to be so open about people being able to be out about being gay and everything. And somebody at the network or someplace involved with the TV show, they went on the record saying that they didn't think that Bruce sounded like a very masculine name. And I'm like, I never would have thought that, but okay, so people thought that, and so that's part of a confusion. People, okay, is it David Banner? Is it Bruce? That's why. That's why.
But then Stan Lee, he would always like rhyme his character names.
Yeah. And
David Parker, J. Jonah Jameson, it was always multiples like that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because of all the
maybe Tony Stark.
Yeah, all the superheroes, all the great comic heroes we're talking about, the Hulk's probably the most violent, and I think that might turn some people off. But again, okay, I was reading kind of a description. Okay, Bruce Banner is kind of the Hulk is kind of physically, not physically weak, but Bruce Banner is described as physically weak, socially withdrawn, emotionally reserved, and then of course the Incredible Hulk doesn't have any of those issues. So again, he's kind of like this guy that's got two personalities and trying to fight both of them.
And then like I said, so I knew the Hulk was green.
Yeah.
But when I started looking and I found like a rainbow of Hulks.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell?
Almost like we're talking about the
37.
Yeah.
I can find a listing of 37 different incarnations of Hulk.
Well, that's interesting. See, that's something I didn't even know. But and
that's not counting like Thunderbolt Ross.
Yeah. And
who cheated, who stole it to become that, But and all these other bad guys who got some of it and became it, later.
Yeah.
But 37.
Wow. Kind of like the Spider-Man verse, but
there's a Spider Hulk.
Wow. Oh, wow. See, I got to go check that out. I haven't now. Also, of course, it's got nowhere near the kind of fame that the Hulk has. There's also a She-Hulk, and researching this today, the other thing I was kind of interested to learn is one of the things that's kind of I guess they're working on currently is there's supposed to be a She-Hulk movie in the works for 2022. So I'd be interested to see how that gets represented, because they haven't done a great job with the Hulk so far. But maybe being, a female Hulk, maybe they could like sex her up and make her look really sexy and cool.
Right. That's the way like Black Widow player.
Yeah, and then maybe they could incorporate the Hulk into that. But
right.
That would be interesting to have like.
Right. Yeah, they've got all sorts of different Hulks, so you never know. They could probably do that.
Now, what's interesting, I was also reading, is the Hulk is also associated. Like they only had like 6 comic books for the Hulk, the original comic book series, and then they ended that like in 1963, I think it said, a year later. And his next appearance would be in all places, which I did not know this till today, the Fantastic Four.
Right.
And again, like I'm not a real deep comic book geek, but I know like all the major players, like Spider-Man, Batman, all the people we've been talking about, Iron Man, the Hulk today. And what makes it interesting is when it comes to Fantastic Four, okay, I'm aware of like, the basic four. You got Mr. Fantastic, you got the Human Torch and all that, the Thing. And then I'm just trying to picture the Thing and the Hulk like together. That I would love to see that like in a movie,
Right. You just don't think they would mix well.
Yeah. You're like, who can get more anger? I don't know. And that's another one, is the Fantastic Four. That's another one they haven't really been able to get right, and I don't know why, because I've seen all the films they put out of that so far. They tried to do a reboot, and I understand they're going to do another reboot, but I think that's part of the problem too. You should just stick with the last reboot, and you do one film and then you want to reboot it again. That's part of the problem. It's not so much the actors, because I think the actors they got for that were
keep like retelling the story.
Yeah, really good. You got to stick with what you're doing.
The story 4 times.
Yeah. And then you're always restarting. That's part of the issue. But, and they seem to get it right, like with the Avengers for the most part. I think that, like, the Fantastic Four and the Avengers, I don't know if it's just because the characters are more extreme, if you will. And the Fantastic Four is kind of really, it's a lot more simpler. But, or maybe because, like, the Avengers is just such a big budget and everybody wants a big paycheck. I don't know. But, like, they've been able to do it with the Avengers, I think, pretty good.
Rolling is pretty cool. I think if they were going to do anything with them, they should maybe go back and do like an origin story with him in it.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm waiting to see, because I mean, okay, we're at a point where Iron Man,
and then maybe show him how he goes from becoming the Hulk to kind of joining the Avengers into becoming this super scientist. What do they call him?
I think he's a physicist. Yeah.
No, he's like Professor Hulk.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I could see them doing that too, because here's the thing. Like with Endgame, okay, we got Iron Man has died at this point. Captain America, he's somewhere out in the universe. Maybe we just don't know for sure. And so there's that open question. Okay, who takes over? Now, what's interesting in researching this stuff today. The Hulk is also kind of a co-founder of the Avengers. So you think, okay, Iron Man's gone, Captain America's gone. Maybe this is the point when, being a co-founder of this, that the Hulk takes control or whatever. And I'm kind of surprised they even haven't, like you said, done a Hulk movie, because they've had this guy in enough of these movies, the one that's doing the Hulk now. I think he deserves his own movie, because he's been in enough of these movies, I think, at this point. If you were to do another Hulk movie, I think people would accept him as the Hulk a little more than the previous guys that tried to do it.
Right, absolutely.
And so I'm really interested to see where they go with the Hulk. And even I'd be interested to see if there was another Avengers. And it's not too sure right now. But again, you kind of, with Endgame 2, we also have the death of the guy that played the Black Panther. And from what I understand, they're making Black Panther 2 and all that. But the interesting thing, like a lot of people thought, okay, well, that guy died. That's unfortunate. They'll just get somebody else to play him. I don't know if Marvel just doesn't want to feels they can't replace the guy or whatever. He was really good in it, and it's a shame that he passed on. But from what I understand, they're not going to have the Black Panther character anymore. We're going to have some other character So I'm kind of interested to see how that's going to play out.
There,
yeah. And
so I just want to go over I don't want to go over all 37 Hulks.
Oh, let's go. Let's
just start
get
off.
Started,
right?
yeah.
Let's start off the Incredible Hulk. That's the great one.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they have Rick Jones Hulk.
Okay.
Then they have Gray Hulk.
Wow.
His name is Joe Fixit.
Wow, Joe Fixit.
Yeah, so this is a Hulk that looks like a mobster. He's got a three-piece suit, a top hat, machine guns, and hangs out in Vegas.
Wow.
Then you got Red Hulk.
Okay.
Red She-Hulk.
Wow. Okay.
Then you got the regular She-Hulk.
Yeah.
That was Jennifer, it says, Walters. And then there's another She-Hulk.
Wow.
From one of these other universes, the 1610 universe. It says Betty Ross.
Okay.
And then Aboriginal Hulk. I guess he goes to Australia. Infernal Hulk.
Wow.
That one, he comes from hell. He's got horns and stuff.
The devil incarnate. Yeah.
You got Blue Hulk.
Okay.
He says that's from the Captain Universe. That's a Captain Universe Hulk.
Okay.
Then there's the Maestro.
Wow.
Then there's Hulk 2099, Savage Hulk, Savage She-Hulk.
Wow.
What else? Let's see. You got Ultimate's Green Hulk, Ultimate's Gray Hulk.
Wow.
Nerd Hulk.
Oh, wow.
Vampire Hulk, Orange Hulk, Professor Hulk, Purple Hulk.
Wow.
World Breaker Hulk.
Wow.
Then you got Planet Hulk. You got this one dude named Scar.
Wow.
Which I think is supposed to be some relation or something.
Okay.
His son or something like that.
Wow.
Or he came back and I don't really know. I got really lost trying to figure all this stuff out.
Wow.
Then they kind of have the old man Logan,
okay. Wow.
They have a family of Hulks that are over there. So you got Logan versus Hulk.
Yeah.
It's kind of a weird thing. You got Zombie Hulk.
Wow.
Lizard Hulk.
Wow.
And one of the ones that I didn't know about, Hulk Pool.
Wow. They got a Hulk for kind of every emotion, every part of the world you can even imagine.
You got the Avengers Hulk.
Wow. Yeah.
And then Brian Banner, which it says is Hulk's dad.
Interesting.
Then they did this one thing, I guess, where they combined a DC and a Marvel.
Yeah.
And squished them together.
Wow.
And came up with this guy named Skulk.
Wow.
And it's Solomon Grundy and Hulk.
That would be interesting to, even from a financial point of view, for them to come out with a movie on that last one you mentioned, because especially a lot of the Disney stuff is being played. Marvel's considered Disney now on their streaming service. Could you imagine a movie where you got both studios kind of own part of a character?
That's crazy.
And that would be the first time in a movie where you really would have the Marvel universe coming together with the DC universe.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah.
They got a couple more. You got the Wendigo Hulk.
Wow.
Cosmic Hulk.
Wow.
And then there's a Barbarian Hulk.
And
then one that I saw that isn't really on this list that I mentioned, there's a Spider Hulk.
Wow.
And I also thought I saw like a Wolverine Hulk, or a Logan Hulk. So he's got he's got Wolverine's claws.
Kind of like
and Hulk's kind of problem with his anger.
Again, that's another cross reference to Marvel. I mean, like X-Men connection, so to speak, which I was never aware of, but that's cool. I dig that. I just wonder, 37 different Hulks. Who sat down and thought of all these different Hulks? But I mean, I would love for them, even as a comic book fan, just to kind of it'd be cool to come out with a book where it just talks about like the different characteristics of all these different Hulks. Because see, that's the cool thing when you research stuff like this. You find stuff like this out, Dan, that you didn't know before. And like you said, my reference point was that old TV show with Bill Bixby. And yeah, I saw some of the classic comic books. And to me, the Hulk has always been the Green Hulk. That's my Hulk. So if I was to see a movie with one of these other Hulks, I'd be like, wow, I never was aware of that. That's a cool part of the story. And now the She-Hulk, I'm a little aware of that, but
I don't think I'm gonna be digging that idea too much. But I don't know.
I mean,
I didn't dig Captain Marvel.
Yeah. See, I didn't
think that was very good.
See, I didn't. Like I'm not a huge fan of, like you said, She-Hulk. I'm aware of it. I'm aware it's out there. I think I would dig a movie only because to see them advance some of these characters that aren't as well known. You know what I mean? And so that's the interesting part for me. But like again, even with Spider-Man and the different Spider-Mans, I can dig it for what it is. But I think again, the classic Spider-Man, like you can go back to the Tobey Maguire movies. That's my Spider-Man, you know. That's the Spider-Man I grew up with. And then I was kind of shocked when they had the animated thing. It was kind of cool for what it was, but okay, that's a different part of the story. And I think bringing out movies like Captain Marvel, I mean, Captain Marvel, that's one of those characters too that's been around for years, but it hasn't been even as heavily exposed as, say, Wonder Woman. But I think that's part of the reason they bring stuff like that out. Oh, you know, girl power and, you know... And I'm all for that, but I don't dig when they do stuff like I was reading that, okay, we're gonna have Michael, you know, they're thinking about having Michael B. Jordan be the new Superman, and that's cool and everything, and I don't have anything against it. The only thing I have against it is like that's a lot of people, that's not their vision of Superman, if you know what I mean, and it has nothing to do with him being black. But when I read these things, okay, we're gonna have the first black Superman. Well, okay, if you want to hire the guy because, you know, you think he can do the part, that's great, but I don't believe in hiring somebody, because we have to have a black Superman or what. That's just my opinion, you know, but
absolutely.
It's kind of like when I think of Superman, I think of George Reeves or even, Christopher Reeve, because, again, that's my Superman. That's, you know, just like if it has nothing to do with even Superman has to be white, but that's, like I read recently, they were thinking about reimagining the Golden Girls and having an all-black cast. Okay, that's an interesting twist, but again, that's not what that originally was. I mean, you talked about a show like, okay, the Cosby Show, for what it was at its time. That was a great black family show, but see, and that's what everybody envisioned, like Dr. Huxtable is. But if you like say, oh, we want to reimagine that as you know, as a white family comedy. Could you?
All with white people.
Yeah. Could you imagine the backlash?
Outrage.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's the same thing here. But yeah, and the cool thing I think about some of these comic book movies and things they have on TV now is you're able to kind of go wherever you want with it. It's a lot of it is fantasy now. Have you had a chance to check out the new Superman series on TV? Superman.
No, I haven't checked that out yet.
I'll tell you, it's pretty cool. I mean, first of all, it's impressed me, being that it's a TV show. The way they shoot it really does look like it looks more like a movie than a TV show, and so that's pretty cool. And then where they've taken the story with this from kind of Smallville is okay. Now you got Superman and Lois have been a couple for several years. They've got two like teenage twin sons, and yet they're very which is kind of interesting because where Man of Steel ends, that movie, Lois and Clark have like just one son, but in this they decide to give them like twins, and each twin is kind of drastically different, but they're supposed to know that they can count on each other at the end of the day. And it's kind of like, so you got Lois and Superman and their family and all the stuff that goes along with that, and they have to explain how these two kids are starting to get their powers and all that goes along with that. But it's kind of a different take on Superman, kind of a more modern take. But I dig it because they're still staying true to the Superman character. And they've had 4 episodes so far. So when you get a chance, I think you might dig it if you get a chance to check it out. And then of course they got the Flash on the CW now. That's one of the longest running comics they've had on there. So that's I'm digging what they're doing these days. With that.
So would you say this new Superman show does it take off for Mike, say where Smallville ended, kind of thing?
Well, see, Smallville is supposed to have taken place during his I guess kind of teenage years when he was growing up. And so I think by the time this new one kicks into place, at least 20 years have gone by, and Superman and Lois have been married for several years. Like I said, they got 2 teenage. So in this series, they've kind of like 20 years later, they've gone back to Smallville, and it kind of just talks about their life there and what it's like going back and all the things that entailed with two teenage kids. But see, I dig that they're very much like Smallville. It's kind of very much like in the modern day, but and then yet there's still staying very true to the Superman character, which I dig, instead of trying to make it really drastically different.
Right on.
Like I don't know if you had a chance to see the they also have a Batwoman series, and unfortunately that because they've had only 2 seasons so far, and the girl that originally did it, she left. They got somebody else, so like the ratings are really, really low. So I understand they're going to do only like one more like a 3rd season, and they're going to wrap that up. But Supergirl, this is going to be the final year for that, and I wouldn't be surprised if next they have a Supergirl movie or something, because the TV series, I mean, they tried to have one, I think, like in the early 70s or something like that, and it wasn't a big hit, but the one they have on now for the last 6 years, it's been a pretty big hit. But the girl that does that, I guess, she's decided to go on and do other things, so they're going to end Supergirl this year, so I'm kind of interested to see what they come up with to replace that, you know?
Right. Now I kind of wonder if maybe they're going to try to work towards like doing their own like streaming channel service, like you know, all the other studios are doing.
Because the way they're doing it now, the CW, this is we're talking about, where all these shows kind of currently air, is like whatever night the show is on, you can watch it. You can watch it on whatever the channel is where you live, and then like the next day they stream the episode that you just saw the night before for free. So they may be going towards that, because you know, even some of these other networks like NBC's got a streaming service called Peacock, but I think you got to pay for it, and that's where, like, if you're a fan of stuff like Saved by the Bell, they had like they're doing like some kind of reunion show that's on there now, but you can only see that if you pay for that streaming service, you know. And I think that is really the way of the future, because we were talking on past episodes, Dan, how because the current COVID lockdown.
Watch what you want to watch instead of what's on.
Yeah, I mean, even in beautiful Los Angeles, where I'm from, I mean, this is the first weekend in a year where they've allowed movie theaters to be opened up, and
nice.
I couldn't even get in this weekend. I mean, because everybody's so excited about, and see, part of the problem is they're only allowing them to have like 10% of what their theater can hold. And so it's becoming where you have to go get the tickets early, and you're lucky if you even are able to get a ticket, or you try to get it online. And I think maybe it won't be so bad like if you go like during the week and not on the weekend. But see, I mean, just going to the movies didn't used to be so much trouble. You know what I mean? And a lot of people are afraid to go, and so it's kind of a catch-22 right now. So I'm interested to see if the movies like ever get back to what it used to be.
Right. I don't know. I mean, I think that with the last like year and a half, basically, you know, I think all these other like at least Disney anyway. Yeah. You know, they figure out how to make money. Like
like Disney. Going to the theater. Disney, like I understand, they're gonna. I think it was with AMC. They were deciding not to play a lot of their stuff like in the AMC theaters, because they couldn't come up with some kind of deal with the theater chain. But they're like, it's not really affecting them because they got their own streaming service, and they just the funny thing about Disney is they have become like a really woke company in the sense that they're calling out some of their own properties. Like you know, Disney a couple of years back, they took over the Muppets, and Disney's been censoring themselves like to the extent that putting warnings on some of the stuff on this, like they're calling out.
Did Disney buy Mr. Potato Head?
I don't think that, no. But what they did is they like own the Muppets, and so like they're saying Kermit, but so like they play on their streaming service some old episodes of the Muppet Show, and they have warnings for certain episodes. Like, for example, they say Kermit the Frog is a racist, so they were thinking about not airing some of these episodes, for example, because it has a Confederate flag. But I'm like, you know, if I watch the Muppet Show, and I really don't think it was the guy that created those puppets, I don't really think it was his intention of the Muppets being racist. I don't think that was the intent. And like when I watch shows like that, that's kind of what gets me is I watch stuff like that, and that's the farthest thing from my mind. I'm not even thinking about Kermit the Frog as a racist. You know what I mean? And it kind of it makes me think back to like around 1985 when they were trying to, the PMRC and that was trying to sticker all these records and ban all these records that I grew up on. I mean, where are the people fighting for our freedoms now?
Exactly. Yeah, they probably got canceled.
Yeah. I mean, you bring up Mr. Potato Head, and that was like, that's really funny to me because, I've always believed in calling like just calling things as they are. Like, it's getting so ridiculous that you can't even refer to somebody as Mr. or Mrs. Oh, we want to be inclusive. So you can't use Mr. or Mrs. You got to use it as an individual. Call somebody an individual or just crazy woke stuff like that. And that was even Mr. Potato Head was really getting kind of crazy because at first, as you know, they're making this announcement. They're gonna do away with Mr. and Mrs. They're gonna have like different potato heads where you can be whatever you want. And I'm all for that, but. See, like if somebody wants to be gay, I have no problem with that. Somebody wants to be straight, that's cool with me. I don't think you have to take other things away to include other people. You know what I mean? There's a way, kind of like if you're an Alice Cooper fan like me and Dan, and you're into metal and hard rock like us, that's cool. But I can also listen to something like the Eagles. There's something for everybody out there. That's kind of my.
I take away Alice Cooper and give you the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, my point is, and even back in the day, Dan, when you and I were growing up, you'd listen to radio stations where you'd hear an Alice Cooper song and also maybe like Take It Easy or something like that on the same station. Just times are just so different, and we're living them, but they got guys like us still trying to fight for our rights. I mean, you were even sharing me last episode, I think, that you've had some dealings with Facebook where you're just not able to. I don't know, in a way, getting in your way of trying to promote your own stuff, which is just kind of.
Exactly. Well, I'm in firm belief now.
Yeah.
As of last week, that Facebook puts a speed limit basically on my posts.
Yeah.
Maybe not me just individually.
But
this is what I can see.
Yeah.
Like when you put up a post
and
it says people like the number of likes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's reached stuff like that. That kind of gives me an idea of like ratings for what's going on. Kind of, even though I don't really have any like official listener numbers. Right?
Yeah.
But it gives me an idea.
Yeah.
At least people are saying it.
Yeah.
So the previous week, it was all kind of fluctuating around 100.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, that's not great, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so then on Monday comes up, I put up a post, and it was like 200. It was like half of the previous week. And I'm like, well, that's just kind of weird.
Yeah.
The next day, it was over 1,700.
Oh, yeah, amazing. I mean.
And then the next day, 197.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like, I'll give.
I didn't see her post.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it.
I'll give you a great example. Maybe about 5 years ago now. This is I can't even remember the name of the band, but I posted an interview of this relatively new band. Probably, not a lot of people had heard about the band at the time, but it got this ridiculous, like response. Like it got like, over 5K hits. Okay, and then I also have like on the same site an interview I did with Brian Wheat from Tesla about his new book. It got nowhere near the number of hits that other interview got. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Tesla, they've got a lot more of a fan base, and yet this other band nobody's ever heard of got such a huge number. Just it's ridiculous,
Yeah, it's just weird how everything works, and I don't know.
It kind of I think is a sign of your success in a way that anytime I think anybody gets any kind of success on Facebook, they want a part of it. I mean, so much to the point this. Somebody was telling me that a lot of these bands, because of COVID, they were doing like these. They got the bright idea. Okay, we're going to have these streaming events on, on Facebook. We'll do stuff for our fans that way until we can get out there and tour. And Facebook started wanting to have a piece of that. That's why a lot of the bands aren't doing it anymore because they were trying to prevent them from doing that. Say, okay, if you're going to use our service to stream your event, we need to get a piece of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's just, it's just all about money, basically, and maybe, I noticed a lot of times sometimes too. They'll say, "Oh, you wanna boost your post?" And it's like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" So I'll just click on it to see what happens, and they want to charge me $20.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, I don't want to boost it that.
Yeah.
I want to give a billionaire.
Yeah, I mean,
$20 more dollars.
Yeah, nobody's going to pimp your stuff the way you do it, you know? You just have to find ways around it. And before we wrap it up today, Dan, I always enjoy talking to you. The thing I find really cool about you is, like I said at the top of the show, you've just got that great radio voice for doing this,
Thanks, dude.
I don't know if that's something you've practiced or it's just something you're a natural at, but I also dig the fact that I think we talked about this before. Like a lot of people trying to promote their stuff and pump their stuff on social media. Like you're not one of these guys that has a big image in the sense that you don't have photos of yourself plastered all over your social media. And I kind of think it's cool that you kind of got that anonymity. You got the following you do, and yet you put up all these cool graphics, and that's cool. But people, if they really wanted to try to dox you or something, they have no idea what you look like. And I think that, I don't know if that's something you always set out to do, but
there might be 2 pictures somewhere out there of me.
Yeah.
But I think I posted one, but it has me with a paint mask on, so you can't really tell who I am.
Yeah, and my question is that something that you were just kind of happen accidentally, or is that something you always kind of, okay, I've heard stories, so I'll go on social media, but I don't want to really...
Well, what happened is, like, I was telling you about that dysfunctional productions page, right?
Yeah.
It used to be owned by another guy who actually used that name for doing live shows.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah.
But he did some stories that I heard. He did some stuff that screwed over some people, and so he had to kind of quit.
Wow.
But he still used the name to promote bands.
Interesting. Okay.
And so he says, you can post your show on my page. And so eventually he just said, here, you can have it. It's all yours.
Wow. Well,
and so I don't know. It's just been.
Oh, interesting. Anyways, before we wrap it up, I had a final question, Dan, because another thing about 2021, we're getting a lot of stuff from Black Sabbath, like reissue. Like, I don't know, they recently came out with a deluxe edition of both Heaven and Hell and Mob Rule, and then like in February they came out with this massive box set of like special anniversary issue for Volume 4. I was wondering, I know you're a huge Ronnie fan, but are you, as far as Sabbath, are you a fan of the stuff from the Ozzy era?
You know what's funny is I sent you an email earlier, but
I haven't got to it yet. Yeah.
Like we said earlier when we were talking about the Dio.
Yeah.
Era, Heaven and Hell was my first Sabbath album.
Oh wow, yeah.
But my second Sabbath album was Volume 4.
Interesting. So maybe.
I had this, and I had no idea if there was a different singer.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
I had no idea. I just grabbed it. It was the first one on the rack. Actually, I think it was probably the only Sabbath album left on the rack.
Yeah.
And other than like probably Heaven and Hell.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting, and we'll I guess then the reason I asked that is like we were talking in the email that I didn't get to yet, as far as your response is I was saying maybe on episode 9 we could talk about Volume 4 just because it is such a different Sabbath album. I was reading like in the book that comes with the box set. That was the first time that that they actually recorded that, I think, somewhere in Los Angeles. They were in this big, huge mansion, and so that's part of the reason the album has such a different sound. They were not in England, their hometown. They were in beautiful, sunny Los Angeles recording it, and one of the interesting tracks on that album, Changes. That is kind of that is where for the first time people actually accuse Black Sabbath of going pop. But we'll save that for a future episode. So. Mr. Montgomery, you enjoy your rest of your weekend, and this will be going up like in probably the first week of April, so I'll let you know once it goes up, as I always do, and then you can post it on all your other sites if you wish to do so. So, anything else you want to say before signing off?
Oh, might as well just go ahead and plug the website, over there at the Graveyard Shift. Let's see, I'll give you the actual website address.
There we go.
The HTTP thing, but it's the graveyardshiftradioshow.com. All in one word, except for the .com, right?
Yeah.
And then over on I added a couple of things actually.
Okay.
There's the Chaotic Rift magazine tab there, and if you go down there and you go all the way to the bottom, there's a link to the previous episodes of the Music Crypt.
Yeah, I think that'll be a great help to further spread the word. So thanks for that, Dan. And I think it'd be cool because people that haven't heard everything yet, they can go back and check it out from episode 1. And I think Dan will agree with me that we seem to just be getting better and better as we go. And I think like a lot of things, like even a lot of the music and stuff we've been talking about, Dan, over